Welcome into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast. Josh and Jell here live on a Monday. We
Live on a Monday.
are live on YouTube, so go ahead and check us out next Monday, because if you're listening to this on Tuesday, you missed it, you idiot. You big dum-dum. But we will be back next Monday, 4th of July, more than likely, to record again on YouTube, so that way you can ask us any questions. Got the chat going. But speaking of questions, Jell, question of the day today. You have the power to get rid of one fast food chain. Which one are you getting rid of?
That I have to, so I have to have beef with this fast food chain?
No, it's just any fast food chain.
To get rid of one?
Correct. Yeah. One fast food chain that you're just like, well, probably your least favorite then. It's just no more, not in existence. Which one are you giving the boot to? I guess
I think Wendy's burgers suck. So, but their chicken sandwiches do make up for the Frosties. They got the Jamocha Shake or the Jamocha Frosty, which is baller. I like me some Arby's. BK I don't ever really go to, so I don't know. I don't have an issue with it. McDonald's does generally make me kind of feel like you always know after you've eaten McDonald's for like hours, you're like, yep, I can feel that McD. But the breakfast does make up for it, especially if you're on a road trip. I think if BK is just like not that good at anything. So that's probably the easy pick here for me. I can't get rid of T-Bell. T-Bell's that's one that gets frequented amongst all the fast food options.
And great late night too. They're one of the only ones that's open late night.
Fiesta potatoes. Thank God they brought those back. That's the money maker right there. I guess BK is the easy one, but I guess I'll start with BK. And if you inspire me in any way, shape, or form, maybe I switch my pick here.
Well, it looks like BK's gone, because that's who I was going with too, just because not really anything against them. It's just they don't stand out as something like, oh man, I need to go there for something. All the other fast food places that you listed off, McDonald's, their breakfast is amazing. Wendy's, love me some Frosty action. Arby's is just phenomenal. That's one of my favorite fast food places. But yeah, Burger King, it's just I'm not really going there for anything. Maybe onion rings, I guess, but I can get onion rings at Culver's, and they're not that great. Rings
suck.
Yeah. So
have you said Culver's onion rings take the cake in all of fast food, by the way?
Yeah.
Well, those are the best onion rings that you can get in a drive-through.
My question was going to be,
but #TBC True Blue Crew for life.
No, my question of the day originally was going to be, if you could only have one fast food chain for the rest of your life, what would it be? But I figured that would be an easy, hands down Culver's. So I figured that was a very quick question of the day, and
that's a big time Culver's action.
Yes.
Fires roaring, boys. This is
boy. Yes. Again,
this flame grill right behind me, and I want to kick out BK.
Again, if you're not on YouTube watching live or watching the podcast on Tuesday when this comes out, you are missing out on that fire. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Joe can be found at DasJel. That's at DASJEL. I can be found at DasJPEC. That's at DASJPEC. Again, we are on YouTube typically on Mondays, and then one other day during the week. We usually go live. So make sure you subscribe, click the bell, just like Taco Bell. There's a little bell there you can click. And it'll make sure that
where's that Chihuahua?
Yeah. Jeez. What is this? Early 2000s,
I was
late
gonna
90s.
Say that might be like a 15-year-old reference, if not more.
Half the people listening probably don't even know who that is. But no, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. You'll get notification on when our podcast release, so that way you can stay up to date listening to the latest podcast. Otherwise, Jell, sipping on anything fun today?
Oh, just still rocking a Miller Lite. Nice American beverage as we get closer to the 4th of July. Gotta stay domestic, you know?
Oh yeah. 4th of July is a week from today. So very cool. I am rocking a high noon pineapple, so still on the high noon
Ah.
train. Choo choo.
I need to explore the high noon game.
I love them.
I really don't. I think I may have had one high noon in my life, and it sounds like I need to get a variety pack or get on that,
Yeah,
get on that train.
absolutely. Hashtag not a sponsor, but definitely open to it. Give us a call. Have a fun show for you today. Gonna recap the Travelers, some Deshaun Watson news finally in regards to the NFL portion of all of this off the field stuff. We'll get into that a little bit. Then we're going to round out the show talking about our top 3 players / people that are under the most pressure this upcoming season in college football and the NFL. So kind of open that up to both of those leagues. So interested to see who you have, Jill, see if we have any crossovers. Our last episode we didn't, so I think we're probably due for a couple crossovers. So we'll see.
At least there's probably going to be at least one, I'd imagine.
Yes, so we'll check that out a little bit later on in the episode. But like I mentioned, we're going to kick it off with the Travelers recap, and it was quite the tournament down the stretch. Xander Schauffele ends up the victor by 2 strokes after Theegala just kind of, man, that was a rough 18th hole for him. Hits it into the sand trap, kind of up by the lip, hits the lip on his next shot, ends up missing another putt, ends up double bogeying away the tournament. And no, he's been a story this year, and just, man, you feel for the guy. It's been tough sledding for him.
It sounds like, well, you've seen me enough try to get out of a bunker. I can't really fault the guy, although he is a professional, but I would have the same issues. But yeah, I mean, to double on 18 when he did have a 1 stroke, I believe. Yeah, he ended up, he had a 1 stroke lead going into 18. He double bogeys, and Xander, I mean, just clinched it with his own birdie on 18. So, hell of a turn on 18. You didn't, obviously, if you had been going into 18, you don't expect the leader by 1 stroke to double bogey, and then who is in second place, Xander at that time, to birdie, to end up the one in second place down a stroke, ends up winning by 2 strokes. That doesn't happen. So, but
No.
Theegala's only 24 years old. He's actually, I mean, he's kind of busted onto the scene quite a bit this year, and somebody that he made his name pretty early on in the season when he was up there competing. I don't have the tournament name in front of me, but it was pretty early on in the season.
Oh man, yeah, I can't remember which one that was. They all just kind of blended into one another. But
this point, they do.
Yes, he was a sponsor's exemption on Monday. He got into the field and then ends up. Oh man.
Yeah, and so, I mean, you have to just be encouraged by his play so far, because again, he's only 24, and he's Phoenix Open T3, Memorial T5. I mean, those are 2 really big tournaments. And then last week, T2 at the Travelers. Those are 3. I mean, the Phoenix and Memorial are 2 huge tournaments. Travelers one that there's generally pretty big names in there. I mean, obviously Rory, Spieth, we saw that we're playing in this tournament. So he's no slouch. And, he's 24. He turned pro only 2 years ago. It's pretty impressive stuff what he's doing. And I think that he's going to have a pretty damn bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree 100%.
Shot a 62 in, this is the tournament when it was the American Express.
Okay.
When he shot a 62 in round 2 on that Friday. That's the one that he was that close. It looked like he was going to walk away with the victory and just couldn't close it out. But it's tough for somebody that young to do so in some of these bigger tournaments. But hey, man, he's won $2.4 million this year. I can't complain about that.
It's a good chunk of change for your first year on tour.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, Xander finally getting back onto the win board as well. He had a really slow Sunday, though. I mean, he easily could have, like you said, he was down going into that last hole until Theegala double bogeyed, and looked like Xander wasn't able to walk away with a victor here, and just kind of fell into it again. Very, very quiet Sunday. do you see with this win any momentum going into the Open Championship in a couple of weeks at all? See somebody you like in that one? I know we've kind of been talking about some of the winners lately and if you like them or not in the last major, but what do you think for Xander and at St. Andrews?
I mean, he'll be competitive. He tends to be relatively competitive. You know, I think that I don't know if I necessarily want him up, and he's not going to be certainly at the top of my list to win the major or anything like that. But he has shown up in a number of, you know, in a few tournaments, at least been competitive. I mean, even going back to last year, he won gold at the Olympics last year. So the guy does have the game to get it to, you know, to show up when he's on. It's just a matter of, is he on today? Is he on over this 4-day stretch?
Yep. Heard took a little hit this weekend, Joe, with Roar Dog.
I thought it was going to be a gold top 10 finish. You know, he's been hot as, you know.
Well, he came out hot on Thursday,
he was leading the tournament, solo lead for the tournament after Thursday, 9 under. And he just from then on just never really kept anything together. He went into Sunday tied for, I believe, 39th maybe even going into Sunday. He ended up finishing the tournament tied for 19th place, but I needed a top 10 finish. I thought that was going to be some easy money, but I should know better. I've been doing a little wagering for a couple of years now, and every time I think I got easy money, I learned there's no such thing as an easy victory. There is no such thing as easy money.
Right.
Especially
too when you have to keep buying plane tickets to go place your bets in Vegas too, and then flying back, and it's that's a lot of cash.
It's just it's added up really quick. All those plane tickets have not added up to my winnings so far with all my trips to Vegas. So, I mean, these Wednesday night trips are getting really expensive.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's usually a pretty cheap day for travel. So hopefully at least you're racking up those frequent flyer miles.
Frontier, at least they're cheap flights.
You could put yourself in a big box and ship yourself there via FedEx or something. Maybe that'd be cheaper.
That's probably not, honestly. If it fits, it ships.
Right. Oh, my hot streak also continued for our pick'em this week. Kevin Kisner posts a solid 12 under par, and your golfer Sam Burns a nice even and missed the cut.
Great pick.
Still down 40 strokes, so we're running out of time here. But hey, moral victories here along the way. And I've been hot lately, though. I've been hot.
Left. You got 8 tournaments left, right? 5 strokes a tournament.
Yeah, that's not bad. We'll see. Got quite the field to pick on our Thursday release for the John Deere Classic. So hopefully I can make up some strokes there. We'll get into that on our next recording. Quite the field. Speaking of fields, Deshaun Watson's hoping to see one this upcoming fall, and
very nice.
Got it's Tuesday when this pod comes out, unless you're one of the ones watching us on YouTube. But he's going to be meeting with the NFL and a third-party arbitrator, and hopefully we'll get some news on what that suspension is going to look like this fall. I saw rumors just kind of floating around through Twitter today that the NFL is going to try and push for an indefinite suspension for a minimum of a year. So obviously Deshaun is going to fight that and wants to get back out onto the field, but it'll be something, again, we can't really speculate on it, but just more so reporting that to you. But I mean, that's kind of what you've been hitting all off season. I think even on our last podcast, when he got brought up, when I was talking about Amari Cooper, that you thought that it should be at least a minimum of a year and then kind of
indefinite with a year, at year minimum and indefinite. I still think that's appropriate. I think that this is something that the NFL finally, it sounds like they finally get it when it comes to some of these suspensions. Of course, it's the this is the first year of Roger Goodell and the NFL not being in charge of these suspensions for these sorts of penalties. Now it's for anything criminal, any sort of civil lawsuit, law case, or a criminal lawsuit, law case. This is the first year where they're bringing in an independent arbiter. The arbiter did serve as a federal judge for I think it was 20 years. So she's got the experience. It'll be interesting to see if she's going to go off of, past suspensions that the NFL has laid out, whether that'll, if that's okay. Our president right now is set as Ezekiel Elliott when he was convicted of, or, suspended for doing what he did in a domestic case and was given 6 games. It'll be interesting how she looks at that, or if she'll look more at Deshaun wasn't criminally charged with anything, so it's hard for me to suspend him, or if she'll consider everything, history, the fact that he does still have 4 pending criminal cases, along with all of everything that he's been dragged through and dragged the NFL throughout how, the last really, we're looking at a year and a half plus now on this. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how she, this new federal judge actually does lay out her punishment, or her at least recommendation for punishment. The NFL does have the ability to appeal, as does Deshaun, after this is given out. So we'll see how it goes, but definitely interested in seeing how she thinks about this sort of a case. And I wonder, I have to wonder if the fact that she is a woman, if that does come into play a little bit with the suspension, where it has always been basically Roger Goodell dealing out penalties in the past for domestic violence, domestic disputes.
It'll be interesting too. You sent over, I believe, over the weekend that information on the Browns had built something into his contract where essentially if he is suspended for this year, his contract gets pushed to next year, where he's only making $1 million next year.
That's an NFL. That's not a Browns.
NFL.
Okay.
NFL.
Policy. That's an NFL policy. But yeah, if he is suspended for the full year without pay, which if he's suspended, it will be 100% without pay, then his $1 million, 1.6 or $1.025 million salary, whatever that minimum number was, just over $1 million, would end up then being pushed back. Let's say he's suspended this entire 2022 season. That $1.2 million number would be pushed back to the 2023 season. So then he would get paid nothing this year. And then next season, he would be paid just over $1 million. So I think that I could also totally see the NFL being like, dial out a giant FU to Deshaun for him and the Browns trying to manipulate his contract that way, because the only reason he's under a $1 million contract this year is because they're anticipating a suspension and they want the total lost amount of money to be minimal for games that he's not going to be playing. So hopefully you follow what I'm saying as a listener, but yeah, I mean, that's what I'm rooting for. I would hate for next year, his full money contract to start, and next year ends up making his $40+ million. I just think it's wrong, but hopefully that's not the case, and he gets the full year. Again, that's what I've been saying all this entire time.
Tony Busby came out today too. I thought it was interesting. The Houston Texans are actually named as defendants in the lawsuit as well, Busby essentially saying that they knowingly knew kind of what was going on with everything. So we heard a lot about Deshaun, but now the Texans organization's under fire as well for their handling of everything, or so-called handling, I guess, too. So we'll see what ends up playing out from that.
Yeah, as this new lawsuit states, basically saying that the Texans were effectively complicit because they knew what Deshaun was doing, or they were either aware or needed to be aware of the situation that they put Deshaun in, because all of this stuff happened when Deshaun was with Houston on the Texans.
Yep.
So they needed that. So they may have been complicit here in this issue.
Yep. All right, Jill, you ready to get to our players that are under the most pressure?
Let's go, baby. The
Right.
DAS pressure cooker, brought to you by Dead Arm Sports.
Thought you were going to name a pressure cooker brand or something.
Well,
I was like,
hashtag not a sponsor.
Yeah. All right. I will go ahead and kick it off. So I'm going to kick it off. I've got one NFL, two NCAA people, and I'll kick it off with the NFL. We'll start there because I'm excited to talk some college football a little bit later on. I know you are as well, Jell, but my first one is heading to the quarterback position up in the northeast portion of the country, and it's Daniel Jones.
Oh,
Daniel Jones is somebody that is under a lot of pressure because he is essentially playing for his starting job for the rest of his career. So this is his last shot. And can he gain Brian Daboll's trust? And can he show why he was picked in the top quarterback off of the board overall that year, 6th overall? And he hasn't shown it yet. There's been times where he's shown a little bit of flash, but that's been it. So this is his last shot to remain a starting quarterback in the NFL. Otherwise, the rest of his career, he's more than likely probably just going to be bouncing around as a backup, if that, and out of the league in a couple of years. So I feel like he's under a lot of pressure with that new coach to show that he still can be the future of that organization. You got a healthy Saquon back, seeing his pictures popping up on Twitter of him just being absolutely ripped and shredded, and got some new pieces. Wan'Dale Robinson is there. Kadarius Toney. I mean, Kenny Galladay, injury plagued last year and stuff, but he's got pieces on that offense to succeed. Granted, they've boosted up the line a little bit. Giants are still a mess, but can Daniel Jones effectively lead the Giants and secure his job and keep his job safe? That's why I think he's under a lot of pressure this year.
Yeah, I didn't even include him on my list just because I think it's pretty much written in stone that he's done after this year. I don't see how there's any way that he can actually come back from what we've seen over the last 3 years. But he's destined to be a backup. This is Mitch Trubisky 2.0. I don't see any difference in their game. I really don't. Two guys that have limited arm strength. We've seen a few throws from them, but not extremely accurate. Halfway decent athleticism in terms of not necessarily wiggling the pocket, but when they have an open lane to run in, they've got a little bit of wheels. I mean, they're young, so they better not look like Peyton Manning out there, but or Brett Favre from like Madden 2010. I guess I didn't even include him on my list because I think he's done regardless. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's under all the pressure to try to save his job if there's even any chance for that. I'm going to go with a different DJ for you and move over to the college football ranks. DJ Ukulele, aka DJ Uyunglele. He was looked at as a very, very high-end 5-star recruit, one of the highest ever. If you look at his 24/7 composite ranking, 5-star, and the highest grade you can get is a 1.0. He's a point that's and I don't know, there's never been anybody in the history to get that perfect prospect ranking. He's a 0.99 out of 1 for his ranking. So, he came in as the number 1 overall quarterback in that class, in the same class as CJ Stroud. And right now Stroud is looked at as possibly the number 1, number 2 pick in next year's draft, just as we're looking at it now. DJ shit himself last year. I mean, straight up, he did not do well.
Big stains.
Yeah. Not looking great in those Clemson white pants, but again, I mean, and before, it was supposed to be basically Trevor Lawrence, the top prospect in all of football. then transition over to DJ Uiagalelei as the top prospect in football. Both Clemson try to carry over that, continue that dynasty that Clemson had really built. But again, he showed that he was basically garbage last year. And on top of that, he's had some attitude issues. He's had some quotes in the past where I don't know exactly what the question was or what the exact quote was back from him, but I think it was, somebody asked him what team he would like to go to in the NFL draft. This was before last season. And he said it was wherever he could go to make the most money. Like, that's not what you want to hear from a guy you want to pick number 1 overall and to be a franchise quarterback. That's an issue. So I think he's got a ton of pressure on him to basically resurrect his career. Right now, some of the mock drafts do still have him being, one of the top 5 quarterbacks picked in this draft, behind Stroud, behind Bryce Young, even Will Levis out of Kentucky. Like, that's before last season, you would not have even thought about putting Will Levis, a Kentucky quarterback, ahead of DJ Uiagalelei. So I think he's got a lot of pressure to be able to, I guess, almost reinvent himself, remake himself, and show that he can be a quarterback that is reliable going forward. Because last year he just showed that he was not.
Yeah, and he's under a lot of pressure too because of Clemson's recruiting class this year and Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik is coming in. He's one of the elite 11 quarterback camp quarterbacks coming in class of 2022. Led Westlake to 3 Texas high school championships and named Texas High School Gatorade Player of the Year. So there's a ton of pressure there for DJ Uiagalelei to keep his job, essentially. Like you said, he was destined to take over for Trevor Lawrence. The game that Trevor Lawrence, I can't remember, I think it was for COVID, had to sit out. He started against Notre Dame and looked halfway decent. I mean, he had a pretty solid game there, and everybody thought it was just a matter of time. Once Trevor left for the NFL, he'd come in and take over. And he really struggled quite a bit down the stretch. So we'll see what happens. Clemson had a little bit of a down year last year as well. And the reason I have so much information on Cade Klubnik is because Dabo Swinney is somebody that I had listed on my hot seat. So I'll just transition right into it. I think Dabo is under a lot of pressure too. They had a quote unquote down year last year. He still won 9 games, but it wasn't the high expectations that the Clemson program is known for after their multiple 5-6 years in a row that they pretty much made the college football playoff, couple national championships in there. So I think Dabo's under a little bit of pressure to right the ship, and people are curious, myself included, that can they get back to the college football playoff, or is this the start of a slow decline of the Clemson program? And we all know Dabo probably, once Saban retires, is going to be one of the front runners for that Alabama job. So I'm curious to see what happens with Clemson this year and in the years to come.
Okay, when we say under pressure, yes, he's under pressure to win, but it's not like his
job. No, his job's not
here
on the line, but I think he's definitely under quite a bit of pressure to get back to the college football playoff. And yeah, not this year, but I think you have a couple down years and he might be looking to jump ship somewhere else too. So
I would say college football playoff probably should be an expectation this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe right now, if you're looking at the preseason rankings, they do. And again, I mean, we're looking at preseason rankings in June, so take it for what it's worth. But I believe they're number 4. I believe they're in the top 4 behind Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, and I think they fall there at number 4 in terms of. And again, I don't know if these are AP rankings or maybe it is. I don't know. I've seen these things flying around. Again, we're in June, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
But there probably is some pressure for him to return back to the college football playoff. And again, it's not like his job is on the line or anything. But
no.
But they need to step it up. A coach's job that I do think may be on the line. Let's go back over to the NFL. Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
There were Sean Payton rumors already. Those rumors started right when he left the Saints. Jerry Jones has said, he said in the past that letting Sean Payton go to New Orleans, that might be his biggest regret as the Cowboys owner. He's also said in the past, like, oh yeah, if you want to make big swings, you got to swing big. So he just likes to make statements, but I believe he has said that about I know he has said that about Sean Payton, that letting him go might be his biggest regret, because Sean Payton, let's look at the Cowboys history of head coaches. Since Jimmy Johnson, it's been kind of a train wreck. I mean, whoever was there before Wade Phillips, and then Jason Garrett for, I believe, 9 years. And then they replace him with Mike McCarthy, which that was already a reach. Also, not that long with Jason Garrett. That's just, that's ridiculous. The other thing too, Mike McCarthy, after his interview, after he got the job, in one of his press conferences, he basically said that he lied to Jerry about studying every single game that had been played in the NFL with a team of analysts, or of a team of like an analytics team. He said in his opening presser that he basically lied to Jerry about that to get the job. I don't know how he still has a job. I would think Jerry would be like, okay, that's the case, you can walk. But unless he was trying to be funny in the most awkward
Mike McCarthy way
possible, which maybe, yeah, that's probably more likely, or quite likely. But I mean, you know that Sean Payton he's basically said that he's committed to the broadcast booth this year. I think he's slotted in to be in that one of the Fox pregame shows or something right now. But Sean Payton's already also said that he's ready to, this is a hiatus. He's not done coaching.
No.
So I would imagine Sean Payton next year might be ready to go. And if Jerry shows him the money, especially if McCarthy severely underperforms this year, if McCarthy doesn't make an NFC Championship game, I can see him walking after this year pretty easily with that pink slip in hand.
Yeah, well, didn't Jerry and him meet this year already earlier on for his, I guess, status? And then it came out that there wasn't any question he was going to be the coach, blah, blah, blah. But they had a meeting already this year. And he's definitely on the hot seat. And yeah, outside NFC Championship game. But if next year Sean Payton's like, hey, Jerry, I'm ready to get back into coaching, I don't think Jerry even hesitates, regardless of what Mike McCarthy does this year. I mean,
unless McCarthy wins a Super Bowl, or makes the Super Bowl, even if he does go to the NFC Championship game, I don't know. Who knows?
It's Sean Payton. He's been one of the best coaches in the last 10 years in the NFL. And I don't know why you would keep Mike McCarthy when Sean Payton's there, from Texas, obviously is interested in the Dallas Cowboys head coaching job. And Mike McCarthy. And I mean, you could name a lot of the Cowboys in general too. Dak is in there. I mean, he's been pretty solid, but again, they haven't had the playoff appearances, playoff success to show. So it's crunch time for a lot of Cowboys. Jerry Jones is a very impatient owner, and he's not afraid to make changes if he sees fit. So
I mean, that's the difference, I think, between McCarthy and Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett's leash was about 2 years too long. They could have let Jason Garrett go a couple of years before they did. But Jason Garrett was his guy. Garrett was a backup quarterback. They had built such a huge relationship. If you know anything about, Jerry Jones likes to keep whatever he can within the family, given that his daughter, Charlotte Jones, is extremely involved in the operations side. I believe she's an executive VP of something. Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Swish. And then Stephen Jones is kind of, I don't know, assistant GM, but really he's
Jerry
the one
Jones in waiting.
Yeah, exactly. But Stephen also is extremely heavily involved in the football operations side and will be GM, officially titled GM, when Jerry's ready to pass it on, or sadly forced to pass it on.
Yeah.
God, that was smooth, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So but McCarthy's not an internal guy like Jason Garrett was. So you know that McCarthy's not going to have that same kind of leash that Jason Garrett did have. And knowing Jerry's love, just complete boner for Sean Payton, that Payton's next in line. I wouldn't be surprised if he throws 20 mil a year at him and is like, look, 5 years, 100 mil, let's get it done. Come here and let's win a fucking title.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see that happening next offseason. I think right now it's more likely than not to happen. I don't see the Cowboys going very far in the playoffs this year. And I think Mike McCarthy will be on his last year as the Cowboys head coach.
Damn Skippy. Take
it. My last one, going back to the college football ranks, not somebody necessarily I think is on the hot seat as far as his job goes, but he was a questionable hire for a big time program. Not a lot of boosters were a huge fan of the hire. He's taking over the turmoil of a head coach leaving for the sunny skies of Southern California. And this is Brent Venables at Oklahoma. So a lot of boosters weren't extremely happy about the hire. Brent Venables coming back over, was in Bob Stoops' coaching staff there, but OU's been a pretty solid perennial playoff contender the last few years. Just lost a bunch of recruits over to USC, and you got the SEC, Oklahoma going to the SEC here in the next couple of years. So boosters, fans don't want Oklahoma to take a step back at all. So I think Brent's under pressure to steady the ship, I guess, with all of the turmoil this offseason's had, with Lincoln Riley going over to USC, bringing Caleb Williams over. Some of the recruits end up jumping ship to go to USC. So I just think he's under a lot of pressure, especially as a first-time head coach. He's been assistant coach on a lot of successful Clemson teams, but I'm curious to see what happens there, and think he's under pressure to prove himself there and that he was the right hire for the job and to keep Oklahoma in that playoff contention.
So right now, Vegas has the over-under for Oklahoma at 10.5 wins. Do you see that happening? I mean, they lost Caleb Williams. They have a first-time head coach. 10.5 is a decent amount of that's a really good season. The question is, of course, what do you see for the rest of that conference, where they could go undefeated in the conference, or maybe trip up once in the conference, but 10.5 wins, do you see that happening?
I don't think I do. You've got a lot of pretty solid programs there. I mean, Baylor's on the up and up. Oklahoma State can win a couple of tough games there. You got that rivalry game at the end of your season. And Quinn Ewers, we don't know we'll see out of him in Texas, but that's got the Red River rivalry. Nice alliteration there, but
Swish.
No, so it's tough. There's a lot of teams that can come out and surprise you, and a lot of run and gun games, a lot of high scoring games that I don't know if Oklahoma's got the firepower to compete with some of the other teams when it comes to high scoring games.
Yeah, I mean, the good news for them is that they do have Eric Gray at running back, who has been he's been a boss since he came. He started over at University of Tennessee, came over from I guess, are they UT or TU? I guess I'm not sure.
UT.
They are UT.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good for them. And then the other thing too is they do have Dylan Gabriel coming back, or he's gonna step
from
in.
UCF.
Yeah, so he's gonna step in as the starting quarterback for OU. Awesome season, awesome career at UCF before he decided to transfer. I think it's an extremely smart move by him to try to get himself on the map, really, really on the map in terms of, a nationwide presence. But we'll see if he's able to get them that many wins. That's going to be that's a little bit tough of an ask if you ask me. But in terms of Venables, yeah, he's under year one pressure, but Oklahoma has high standards, obviously. I mean, it's crazy when you look at Texas versus Oklahoma. Texas is the higher, more high profile team and program than Oklahoma, but Oklahoma has walked all over Texas for however many years now. I mean, really, they've absolutely dominated that that matchup. It's almost similar to Ohio State and Michigan, where Michigan, yeah, they had a nice year last year, where Texas will have their occasional year, but Ohio State has just absolutely dominated that rivalry. Kind of the same situation here. So Venables does step into a really tough position. Like you said, first year coach. Hopefully he's able to take some of those recruits that he was going to bring to Clemson and bring them over to Oklahoma instead. But either way, tons of pressure, I think, especially, year one, Oklahoma expectations, lot going on there for him. I'm actually going to go 370 miles south down to Austin and stick with UT, the Texas Longhorns, and go with Steve Sarkisian. He went 6-7 last year. That is
sorry, he beat Kansas, didn't he?
Lost to Kansas, the University of Kansas, in football, not basketball, football. Kansas, arguably is it even arguable the worst Power 5 team in the country when it comes to football?
There's some other teams I'm sure you could throw in the mix, but they've been there for one of them.
I mean, it's a pretty short list. They might take the cake for worst over a long stretch of time. So the fact that they lost to Kansas, that immediately puts
at home.
That right there puts him on the hot seat right there. But and now they bring in Quinn Ewers over from, I mean, he was a Texas high school quarterback, went to Ohio State last year, got his payday, redshirted, came back to decided to transfer because CJ Stroud clearly isn't going anywhere. I mean, after next year, probably, but to the league. But still, Quinn Ewers coming back home really to UT, number one overall prospect when he came out of school. So, I mean, you got to win this year. If you got the number one overall prospect at quarterback, you have to win this year. He does have a little bit of momentum because this past week they did grab Arch Manning. So that's a huge win for Sark, but those boosters were heavily involved in getting Arch over there. I have to imagine. Not that the Mannings are short on money, but hey, every high school kid wants his own cash anyways to spend. So he's got a little bit of momentum there. But again, going back to those boosters are not going to be able to settle for another 6-7 season. I think Sark needs to get to 9 wins at a minimum to be able to, kind of shake this monkey off his back, because if you look at his head coaching career, it's been bad. We saw what happened at USC when, it's I don't know what was confirmed, if it was medication that went wrong or if it was medication mixed with alcohol, or if it was he was just drunk at this press conference or this pep rally. But like, that was kind of a last straw for him at USC when that whole incident went down back when he was with the Trojans. That was when he was the head coach of one of the highest profile teams in the nation. that's so his head coaching resume is quite poor if that's example one. And then example two, starting off your time with the Longhorns with a 6-7 record and losing to Kansas. Again, losing to them. So, I mean, if he gets 9 wins this upcoming year, I think he may, he'll shake a little bit of these boosters off his back, but he's running out of time here, I think, with UT just based on how last year went. And also on top of that, they're moving to the SEC soon. And if he can't get it done in the Big 12, why would he be able to get it done in the SEC? There's no proof he'd be able to get it done in the SEC. So I think it's kind of a do or die situation this year, between this year and next year for Sark.
I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here on it. I think he is under a lot of pressure, but with him just landing Arch Manning, do you think he's safe this year, regardless of what his record is? I mean, obviously, if Texas goes 0-12 or whatever, then they probably would let him go. But do you think it would scare the program a little bit, the boosters, that if they let Sark go, that Arch may go elsewhere as well?
That's a good point. But if he goes 6-7 again with Quinn, I don't see how you can keep him around, because who knows? So then what does that show? I mean, Quinn Ewers, again, number 1 overall prospect out of high school. So is he going to be here to ruin Quinn Ewers' career and Arch's career? Or do we get another quarterback that's actually, or another coach that's going to be able to support these quarterbacks?
Yeah.
So I guess that's a fine way to look at it. But if he has the same kind of year, that's why I think 9 wins, that'll at least wrestle some of that pressure off of him, because administration will want to keep him around if he's a big reason why Arch did decide to go to UT. But they could also consult with Arch and say, look, what do you think? Or the whole Manning family, I guess.
Right.
Say, what do you guys think? Do you think that, how much of an influence was Sark in you coming to the Longhorns? And if Arch says not that much, more of, I like the brand, I want to help resurrect this program, I don't really care who my coach is as long as he's not garbage. Well, if Sark shows that he's garbage and goes 6-7 again this year and loses to Kansas again, then I think he's gone. But 9 wins is reasonable. 3-win improvement, 10 would be great. Quinn Ewers is obviously a major upgrade from their quarterback situation last year. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of pressure on Sark.
Yeah, he could probably solidify his job at least to buy another year too. I believe Alabama's on the schedule this year, so he gets a win there, and I don't think it really matters from there.
That alone could do it. Beat his predecessor, or his old boss, Nick Saban.
Do you have one more, Joe, you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump back into the NFL. And I know I gotta get an NFL player in here. And I'm gonna go Lamar Jackson. His contract situation is that's the main reason why. I mean, the Ravens continue to insist that they want to sign him to a long-term deal, and he hasn't budged. I really think that he's holding out till he's in that same situation that Dak was in when Dak played through the franchise tag, and then in Dak's first year, he got a 60 or first year as a free agent, or I guess, with his new contract with the Cowboys, he got a $66 million signing bonus. And as well as, plus whatever his salary was for this year. They had it structured and then they restructured it before the season. So he ended up making $75 million in his first year of this new contract, including his $66 million signing bonus. I think Lamar's holding out for a deal similar to that, where he's going to get major dough right up front. but I mean, obviously it's a major risky play given, God damn it, given that, just given that over the last 2 years, he has battled injuries multiple times. This past year, injured, tried to come back, injured again. Let's see if he can get through a Monday Night Football game without pooping himself, because that's pretty obvious why he had to ran with something going on back to the locker room about, I think that was 2 seasons ago. But no, in all seriousness, if he ends up getting hurt again, why would Ravens? The Ravens would have reason to be extremely hesitant in giving him a long-term deal, and at that point, let him play out the franchise contract or the franchise tag for 2 years. And if they have to offer him the transition tag, which that's no fun, but I don't know. I think Lamar is under a major amount of pressure this year to mostly stay healthy and mostly continue to give the Ravens a reason to sign him to a new deal, to a bigger deal, because right now this strategy is questionable, just given his playing style. If he was Patrick Mahomes, where he's not running around all the place, has no injury history, I would understand it way more. For if he was trying to get, if Mahomes was trying to get it the most amount of money that he could. But Lamar, it's just risky business, Lamar. But so I think he's under a lot of pressure to make sure, just to avoid the IR.
Yeah, he's taken a big gamble in his future paydays. That's a guarantee with that. But I don't necessarily mind the move by him, because I think he's done enough and is a huge game changer when healthy, that regardless of what he does this season, Baltimore doesn't have any choice but to franchise tag him the next 2 seasons. So I just see Lamar as somebody that, like you said, Dak's a perfect example. Dak played out both of the franchise tags and then ended up signing a long-term deal. You've got Kyler's situation that hasn't gotten resolved yet. So maybe that's playing into a little bit that Lamar sees him as another rushing style quarterback that's very mobile. And Lamar's like, I'm a hell of a lot better than Kyler is. So I want to see what Kyler gets paid before I put pen to paper right now, because I know I'm worth more than him and more valuable than he is to his offense. So I don't know if maybe that also is into play a little bit, or he's just kind of waiting around, because it seems like whenever one quarterback signs an extension, it kind of sets the bar, and then you get a couple other guys that sign and get a little bit more money. So maybe he's waiting out that a little bit too, to see what the quarterback market looks like. But as of right now, yeah, outside of some career ending injury, which doesn't happen a whole lot, I don't really see him sliding down at all as far as value goes. And I think he's content just riding out and doing like Dak did and just doing that franchise tag, and then see where he goes from there. If the Ravens don't want to pay him after that, then we'll have a lot of other teams fighting for him. That's for sure.
I think that's clearly, that has to be the strategy from him. The difference though is that the difference though is that Dak has never, when he fought for that type of contract, the Cowboys wanted to get he wanted to get a deal done. It was the Cowboys that were the ones that were hesitant.
Yeah.
And B, Dak had no injury history. It was funny that after Dak got hurt with that gruesome ankle injury on his final franchise tag year, that's when the Cowboys were willing to offer him the mega deal that they did. So they're almost opposite situations in terms of injury history, in terms of who wants a deal done. But the strategy from Lamar's side, I think, is pretty obvious that he's going for that same strategy that Dak took.
Yeah. And if you're Baltimore too, the organization, and you know that Lamar is just kind of doing what he's doing right now, you don't want to tie up a ton of money and eat your salary cap. We've seen so many teams strapped for cash when you start paying your quarterback, and he's still on a team-friendly deal right now. And why wouldn't you just keep that rolling right now? I mean, like you said, they have essentially 3 more seasons to get him locked up, and I don't think they're in any hurry to do it.
We'll see.
Yep. We will. That'll wrap up this episode. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Again, we go live on YouTube typically every Monday and then usually another day during the week. So make sure you subscribe, click the bell there. You'll get notifications when we go live and when our podcast videos drop. So that way you can stay up to date. If you want to follow Gel on his socials, he's at Dawson Gel. I'm at Dawson JPEG. Give us both a follow. We usually push out some content on Twitter, Instagram. So check us out there. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot of that review. Get you some sticker swag sent out. And if you tune into YouTube, we got the chat function going. So make sure you ask us a question. We'll hit you up during the podcast, or else we'll stay on a little bit afterwards to respond to your question if we didn't get a chance to answer it. But Joe, where else can they listen to us at?
Make sure to hit us up on our presenting sponsor, Anchor, both on the website and whatever your phone app store is. Anchor.fm on the web. Just search Anchor on Google Play or the Apple App Store to find that resource. They allow us to do all of our presenting to you for free on Apple Pod. For free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Pods. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just hit up that search bar, type in Dead Arm Sports. You should be able to find our channel right at the top of your page and hit subscribe there. Make sure you hit that big bell. That'll be on the page for you to make sure you get notifications on, whenever we go live, whenever a new video is posted. Again, we are live right now, live on a Monday. If you were a subscriber, you would have gotten one of those notifications. So make sure you do that. You can also hit up our chat box. Then you'll know when we go live. Jump in, hit up the chat box. We're constantly monitoring that chat box. So we can address any questions, any comments, any feedback that you guys have live on the show.
All right. Again, appreciate everybody out there listening. If you could tell somebody that you know about the podcast, that would help us out greatly. And Joe will love you long time. But we'll be back a little bit later. We'll be back later in the week. Going to talk about the all-important John Deere Classic coming up this week on the PGA Tour schedule. And we're going to put our technology to a test, and we're going to go and do a live mock draft. So Jill and I are going to draft from the same team. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. We'll screen share the draft so that way you can follow along when you're listening. Otherwise, again, appreciate everybody out there listening, and Joe, close us out.
DJ Ukulele? Nah. DJ Jelly Gel.
Yeah, buddy. Nice.